What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. We've talked on the YouTube channel in the past about Jak and Daxter, this franchise that's gone on now, and we haven't seen a continuation of it, however, in quite some time. And so we were talking about, will we ever see a continuation of this franchise? But I think in order to really kind of break down and answer that question, we have to look at what happened here to this series, and could we at some point or another see a continuation of this franchise in the future. So let's get into it, guys. In an article that was written by Francis Kenna of Game Grim, whatever happened to Jak and Daxter? Jak and Daxter was a franchise with an unusual evolution. While most game franchises use their sequels as a way to iterate upon previous entries, improving and polishing prior ideas and trying to address past criticisms, Jak and Daxter instead went in a completely different direction after its first title, with its sequels having wildly different tones and focusing on different styles of gameplay. So number one, guys, even though I will say this, probably the main reason that we haven't seen a continuation of Jak and Daxter is because Naughty Dog, of course, the developers of this franchise, have been working on none other than The Last of Us 2. They've also, of course, made the Uncharted games, which have been wildly successful. Now, that's not saying that Jak and Daxter is not going to come back at some point in the future, but I think number one is that they're working on other stuff, but number two is simply that they have different tones and they focus on different styles of gameplay within each game, in different variations, of course. And so I think that is another kind of something that's added to the problem that Jak and Daxter may have faced. For the uninitiated, the original Jak and Daxter, released in 2001, it was a 3D platformer much in the same vein as Super Mario 64. While Naughty Dog had already proven themselves capable in the platforming genre with the hugely successful Crash Bandicoot franchise, Jak and Daxter proved to be an even more ambitious project, with the linear levels of Crash being replaced with large open areas seamlessly connected through a single world with no loading times. People forget, though, that Naughty Dog was involved in some of these games, guys, like Jak and Daxter as well as Crash Bandicoot. It's a pretty big thing, guys. And then, of course, they took some of those ambitions, which you can totally see now looking back. A lot of those ambitious moments and different styles of gameplay they had in Jak and Daxter, they definitely moved some of that stuff, kind of becoming very ambitious in their more recent games, that being like the Uncharted series and the Last of Us series. The contrast of technology meets nature within the game also helped it to cement its own unique identity amongst the numerous other 3D mascot platformers at the time. The title ended up also showcasing the technical prowess that Naughty Dog has become well known for in recent years, with titles such as the Uncharted franchise and The Last of Us. So, look, at the end of the day, guys, I think that, as I said, Naughty Dog started working on The Last of Us as well as, Uncharted first and then The Last of Us. And so they've kind of gone into this more, realistic direction, semi-realistic direction, and they've, been really focused on character development and things of that nature. Now, of course, each of these games, guys, that's come out, they were, at the time, pretty awesome. I think a lot of people really enjoyed the Jak and Daxter series, and I think that this is a series that deserves to coexist or at least continue at some point or another in the future. But the question is that really something that's going to happen with Naughty Dog not only, of course, doing Uncharted, but now The Last of Us? What is that going to look like if they were to come back to Jak and Daxter? I feel like maybe that kind of ship is sailed. They're done probably with Crash Bandicoot. They're probably done with Jak and Daxter. Will they sell the IP, or what will they maybe do with Jak and Daxter to see this, ever come back? I think that at this point it's in a limbo state at this point, guys, and hopefully we see it come back in some way, shape, or form. Now, despite critical reception remaining strong, sales saw another slight dip, with the Jak and Daxter franchise seemingly losing players' interest. After reaching a satisfying conclusion with the overarching narrative of Jak and Daxter with Jak 3, Naughty Dog decided to follow in the footsteps of Crash Bandicoot and create another spin-off racing game titled Jak X Combat Racing. If Crash Team Racing is Naughty Dog's take on Mario Kart, then Jak X would be their take on Twisted Metal. This title finds Jak and his friends entering a combat racing tournament to win an antidote to the poison they've been inflicted with. As the title implies, these races focus on destroying opponents' vehicles with a variety of different weapons as much as they do on fast and efficient driving. So here comes my third thing, guys. Number one is that Naughty Dog started working on other titles that ended up becoming very successful, that being The Last of Us as well as Uncharted. Number two is they had different styles of gameplay within each of these Jak and Daxter games, which I think brings me to number three, is that there was almost like an identity crisis within this franchise, in my personal opinion, because at times, even though it's good at times to kind of try different things, you really want to stick with what you're good at when you're in a specific, in a franchise, right? Whatever's working, you kind of want to continue that and maybe evolve that over time. But going from being what it was to then kind of like a racing game and adding other, variants and such to it, I think at times Jak and Daxter had somewhat of an identity crisis at different points in time. Now, while Ready at Dawn found success with the IP, Naughty Dog would yet again bring the franchise in-house for the second PSP title, Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. The initial intent was to create the title alongside their 2009 hit Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. However, balancing the two projects ended up becoming more challenging than they had expected, leaving them no choice than to pass the next Jak and Daxter title to High Impact Games. High Impact Games not only consisted of past Naughty Dog and Insomniac employees, but they had seen moderate success with Ratchet & Clank Size Matters and Secret Agent Clank. Unfortunately, that success didn't translate to the 2009 title Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier, with the game receiving a more lukewarm reception than any of the previous titles. Despite releasing on both the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation Portable, The Last Frontier failed to attract much of an audience and is generally considered to be the weakest entry in the franchise by fans. Now, this, however, wasn't enough to dissuade Naughty Dog from attempting to take the franchise under their wing one final time. This new PlayStation 3 title was going to be yet another transformation for the ever-evolving franchise, with an even more grounded and gritty approach being taken. Unfortunately, the team behind this new title couldn't quite pin down a tone and direction that they felt was suitable for the franchise. The title became abandoned in the early stages in favor of The Last of Us. So really, guys, as we said in the very beginning, Naughty Dog became very focused on not only Uncharted, but The Last of Us as well. And with good reason. Look, at the end of the day, when you look at the totality of what, Jak and Daxter is, and now you look at the recent work that Naughty Dog is doing, what Naughty Dog is doing currently is really, they're almost cementing a legacy for themselves as one of the best developers in the world when it comes to gaming. And that's aside from, all of the backlash they've gotten about, their process on creating content and things of that nature, guys, which we're not going to get into. But all in all, when you look at what they've done recently with Uncharted and The Last of Us, it's quite spectacular. And so they're making an aggressive approach to be one of the, most talked about and prestigious, developers out there in the world. And Jak and Daxter was a way that they could was a stepping stone for them to get to where they were really trying to do, which was Uncharted and The Last of Us. Now, as of right now, it seems unlikely that Naughty Dog will revisit the Jak and Daxter franchise. And while myself and many others have a soft spot for it, it's hard to blame them. They went on to find greater success with both the Uncharted franchise and The Last of Us, and if they can't decide on a good direction for Jak and Daxter, it may be better off being left alone. I just hope that if the series ever does return and can recapture the sense of focus and identity it once had. So I'm not going to say, guys, if you're a huge Jak and Daxter fan, I'm not going to say that this is a franchise that will never come back, because I think that there's a chance. I just don't think it's with Naughty Dog. I think Naughty Dog needs to sell the IP or let another developer kind of take the reins here and do like a soft reboot or something of that nature, because I think Naughty Dog, they're moving on to greener pastures. They want to move on, into probably a full-blown trilogy of The Last of Us, maybe even more than that, and do other projects as well. Jak and Daxter was in their past, not that they would never revisit it, but I think if they did, it would be like more of like a remaster or something along those lines. I just think that Jak and Daxter is primed to be, remastered first of all, but also continued, and give a shot to an indie developer that really is passionate about a project like this. Give them a shot at making something really special, and I think they could. I think that this was a series that had an identity crisis throughout the course of its history, guys. Even though it was unique, each one was unique to itself. I think there were problems with this franchise because there were times where I would almost didn't even really realize like how many games there were in this franchise when these games were coming out. There was like Jak and Daxter, then there was Jak, and then, then there, of course, the racing, and there was just a lot of different games that were coming out in this franchise that it kind of got convoluted and a little bit confusing, I think, for some people. And so if they were to continue, they should just call it Jak and Daxter, first of all. But second of all, do a remaster, get people back introduced to this franchise, and then go ahead and move forward from there. But let me know what you guys think. What would you guys want to see in a Jak and Daxter continuation? Would you guys want to see it, or do you think it should be left alone? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Jak and Daxter content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. Crackdown 3 was a game, guys, that got, kind of mixed reviews. So there were some people in the fan base that absolutely loved this continuation of the Crackdown franchise. And then there were others, that being new fans or new players of this game, that didn't really like it that much or were critical. And so even though I think that there was a mixed bag, so to speak, with Crackdown 3, I think, guys, that it was pretty well, as far as from a marketing perspective as well as a sales perspective, Crackdown 3 did pretty well. And so Crackdown 4 has been something that's been kind of, been talked about a little bit in the community. So I want to talk about that in this second segment of the show. So in an article, guys, that was written by Nicholas Jackson of Game Rant, Crackdown 4 may be in development. So after the launch of Crackdown 3, rumors have now begun that a sequel, possibly named Crackdown 4, may be in development. Sumo Digital, the developers of Crackdown 3, has recently began recruiting for its next project. Over on the Sumo Digital website, the company has posted a variety of jobs, with the bulk of the postings in the art and coding categories. In 2019, the studio led development on Crackdown 3 and Team Sonic Racing, as well as assisted NetherRealm Studios on Mortal Kombat 11. After years of switching developers, Crackdown 3 was finally released by Sumo Digital in 2019. So look, guys, one thing I want to mention about this that I think is important is that Crackdown 3 went through, I would say, to put it lightly, a development hell. I mean, this was a game that was, there was talks that it was going to be coming out absolutely years ago. And then you got a little bit of some information here and there. And then finally we got this full-blown gameplay trailer. And the trailers came out, and then it felt like the game came out very shortly after that. And so after all those years, finally the game came out. And I will say that for me personally, I thought it was okay. I thought it was an okay entry, even though I had never played the other, Crackdown games. For what it was, I liked, I actually thought that graphically, it was different. It was an interesting concept, and I had fun. I thought it was a fun playthrough. It's not something that I would continue playing over and over again, but I thought for what it was, I did enjoy it. And would I want to see a continuation? Absolutely. I think that this is starting now. With Crackdown 3, it's starting to kind of bring some of those old players back who played the other two games, or at least one of them in the series, and it's also attracting new players as well. And I think that there is something special there underneath all of it, underneath the mixed reviews, underneath, whether we're talking bad dialogue or bugs or whatever the case might be. I think there is something there with Crackdown, and I kind of want to see where they would go with it in a Crackdown 4. So, Because of the strong Xbox and Sumo Digital relationship, fans have started speculating that Sumo Digital's next game will be an Xbox exclusive. In recent years, Sumo Digital has led development on Crackdown 3 and has assisted other Xbox studios with Forza Horizon 4, Forza Motorsports 4, Forza Motorsports 3, and Forza Horizon 2. And then although the developer has worked on the Crackdown franchise recently, there's also speculation that Sumo Digital may be getting to create a game in a different distinguished Xbox universe. Under lead game designer Sumo Nottingham role, the company has stressed that the person applying for the job should have a passion for racing games of all types. While it is not confirmed, this indicates that it is possible the studio may lead development on one of the next installments in the Forza series. So here's the thing on the flip side of this, guys. You got Crackdown 4, which people, there are certainly fans out there that want to see another Crackdown game at some point. But just think about, between Crackdown 2 and Crackdown 3, the amount of time you had to wait for that, the development hell that went through with Crackdown 3. I don't think we're going to be seeing a Crackdown 4 anytime soon, in my personal opinion. I think it's going to be a ways down the road. Now, maybe they got the ball rolling on this. Now that they finally got Crackdown 3 out, they can really feel good about, banging out a number of these games, a lot quicker. But at the same time, it may be a process once again, which I'm sure it will be with Crackdown 4. So this sounds like more to me, even though I would like to see a continuation at some point or another for Crackdown. It sounds like Forza very well might be the next thing they're working on, or some type of racing game. In recent years, the Forza games have been developed by Turn 10 Studios and Playground Games, with the former leading development on the Forza Motorsports titles, while the latter develops the Forza Horizon games. With recent rumors pointing to Playground Games developing a new game in the Fable franchise, this may have left an opening for another studio to take other lead development in an installment in the Forza Horizon series. Although Xbox has not confirmed the existence of Playground Games' Fable game, there have been many leaks leading to the speculation. So look, obviously one last thing, guys. Recently, we added Crackdown 3 to our list of the 10 most disappointing games of 2019. In the article, we stated that the final product, while it retained the familiar gameplay from the previous games, didn't do much else to further advance the franchise forward. And see, for me, guys, as someone new to the franchise, I thought it was okay. It wasn't something I would play over and over again. I thought that I did certainly hear a number of people complain, and a lot of people were very disappointed with Crackdown 3. I guess I just didn't really have anything else to compare it to in that franchise. But at the end of the day, what does this get back to? Even though the sales might have been decent, might have been strong for this title in particular, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a continuation, at least in the foreseeable future. The same thing can be said for critical reception, because you also look at that as well. You look at the critical reception, you look at the sales. Most of the time it comes down to the sales, guys. If the sales are really good, then you're pretty much definitely going to greenlight another game. But if the critical reception is not good and the sales were decent at best, you might start thinking twice about making a continuation in a franchise like Crackdown. What I will say is this. I think that after all those years of waiting, it wasn't worth the wait. But at the same time, since we got it, I think that there should be, even though underneath all of the, like I said, mixed reviews, there's something that might be special there with Crackdown, and I'd like to see that explored at some point in the future, but I don't think it's going to be for a while, guys. I think that most likely we're going to be seeing other, these developers working on other games, at least for the time being, and a Crackdown 4 may come out sometime in the foreseeable future. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Would you guys want to see a Crackdown 4, and what do you think that they can change to make it better? Let me know what you guys think, and for more Crackdown 4 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. We've talked on the YouTube channel about Killers of the Flower Moon, the movie that is, guys, that's going to be directed by Martin Scorsese, and we've talked about, where is this movie at this point, and, how far they may be into development. Is it going to be delayed significantly because of the pandemic going on? What is the status here? So you guys can check out those videos on the YouTube channel, but What I want to talk about here today is everything that we know so far about Killers of the Flower Moon. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article that was written by Tom Nicholson of Esquire, Leo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro will star together for the first time. After slaving away at The Irishman for years, Martin Scorsese's already got his next directing job on the horizon. He's going to get going on Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's not going to be just any old Scorsese joint. It'll be the first one to star both of his great muses, Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. And well, apart from the weird advert from Macau Casino that the trio did alongside Brad Pitt, which now feels like a fever dream. What is it about? It's based on the book of the same name by the journalist David Grann, which explores the murders of a number of wealthy Native American people from the Osage Nation in Osage County, Oklahoma, back in the 1920s. The deaths came after an enormous oil deposits were found on Osage Nation land, and the Osage people were found in court to be legally entitled to the profits. So in the grand tradition, the white Americans exploiting land that wasn't theirs found a way to be even worse than you thought they could be to native peoples and started to have them killed. Some estimates put the number of deaths in the hundreds. So obviously, guys, this is interesting. This sounds like definitely a Scorsese movie. Definitely sounds like something that you would probably see, DiCaprio as well as De Niro potentially be in. I think really right off the bat, though, I've been very vocal about this. DiCaprio is my personal favorite actor in the world. I think he is the best actor in the whole world, and I think him and Scorsese together are going to be, they're going to make magic once again. I mean, we could go down the list of movies that these two guys have done, even done together, like The Wolf of Wall Street. I'm very excited about it. And De Niro being in there is just an added bonus because he's one of my favorite actors as well. Scorsese, one of my favorite directors. This really has everything that you probably would want out of like a director and a cast is concerned, because who's in it? As Variety reported in October 2018, DiCaprio is in, and IMDb lists him as playing Ernest Burkhart. The real Burkhart was one of the most intensely appalling men who killed in their thirst to get at the oil. De Niro's involvement was confirmed by DiCaprio on stage at the Screen Actors Guild Awards, and IMDb says he's playing William Hale. Hale was a Texan cattleman who styled himself as the king of the Osage Hills and was also thoroughly horrible. So both these guys sounds like they're both playing bad guys. So that's another thing that should be really interesting, to say the least. Now, as far as who else is going to be involved, guys, it's really hard to say. It doesn't seem like there's been a lot of other cast members, at least like famous people that it seems have been, have been announced as of yet. Now, we've got this from Scorsese, which he said when the film was first announced in late 2018. When I read David Grann's book, I immediately started seeing it, the people, the settings, the action, and I knew that I had to make it into a movie. I'm so excited to be working with Eric Roth and reuniting with Leo DiCaprio to bring this truly unsettling American story to the screen. So, when is it going to release? Well, speaking very, very broadly, it might be out in 2021, and that's a big mic, guys, because it would be awesome to see it come out in 2021, but at the same time, when you really think about it, most likely it's not going to come out in 2021 just because they probably haven't even started shooting yet. They're probably doing principal photography and things of that nature. So once they finally get the cameras rolling, it might be later on in 2020. And so 2021 might be a little bit too soon. They're going to want to have plenty of time for marketing. And then, of course, it'll probably come out, guys, I would say, early 2022, maybe late 2022, because of what, the delays that have probably happened amongst the entire entertainment industry as a whole because of the pandemic. But with that, guys, I want to pass it on to you. We know, obviously there's a good amount that you probably could know about this movie just because you could read the book Killers of the Flower Moon. But knowing Scorsese, there's probably going to be some mystery to this movie, similar to that like Shutter Island. DiCaprio's in this. You know that there's going to be it's going to be a very well shot, very well crafted story. There's probably going to be some mystery, going to be some things in there that really, I think that we as an audience are going to absolutely love. And I want them to take their time, because at the end of the day, guys, I love it when they do, because it's magic on screen when you get to see the finalized product. And these guys really do. I mean, the best in the business. I mean, I think that they really are going to make something special here out of this movie. But let me know what you guys think. What do you guys want to see in Killers of the Flower Moon? What are you most excited to see? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Killers of the Flower Moon content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. The Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, guys, was one that was really built like this absolute huge following. I'll never forget it, guys. You know, growing up, you know, even in high school, we were really into these pro skater games, and it seemed like everyone was into skateboarding in one way, you know, in some capacity or another, whether you were good at it or not. And these games were something that I remember having friends over. We would play you know, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, you know, very, you know, like late at night into the early morning, guys. It was one of those similar types of games that we would play for just hours upon, and similar like Halo, you know, the original Halo games, and, you know, Max Payne, and just, you know, so many different games that we used to play. But Tony Hawk had a special place in our heart for sure. You know, everyone was trying to, you know, beat each other at doing different combos and things of that nature within these games. And so when I heard that that Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 are both of them are getting remastered for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, I got really excited. Because look, when you talk about remastered, and look, lots of games are getting remastered. I mean, even the Crysis games are getting remastered. There's a couple of things, though, that we got to take into consideration. Tony Hawk Pro Skater, not only is it getting remastered, and that makes me very excited. And we could like compare this to the Crysis games as well. And I've said this in the past, guys. Whenever you have a game or a series that is getting remastered, it should give you a lot of excitement. Not only because you'll be able to play those games in a remastered format, better graphics and things of that nature. They may add some things to the game as well. But on top of that, you're going to be paying the price for these remastered games, and you'll get a couple of those in the package. So in this instance, you're getting Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. So a lot of people may not have even played the first two Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, but that's a discussion for another day. The second reason why this should give you a lot of excitement is that the fact that they made a remastered version for Tony Hawk means that this is a series that is still on the minds of the developers as well as the publishers, which leads me to believe there's a real possibility that there could be a continuation of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series moving forward, especially if the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster, you know, sells really well and gets some really good critical reception. I compare it to Crysis, guys. The first three Crysis games, they did pretty well from a commercial standpoint. As far as reviews go, I mean, it was generally favorable to mixed reviews based on whichever game you might be talking about. But the fact that they're remastering it means that Crytek is putting that game out there. They're going to have everyone else, you know, everyone's going to get a chance to play them, and then they're going to see what the sales are like. Is there still an interest in Crysis? And then if there is, which I believe that there still is myself, they can go ahead and greenlight a Crysis 4. So at Tony Hawk, I look at it the same way. You are kind of testing a couple of these Tony Hawk Pro Skater games in a remastered version. And if they sell well, which, number one, this is going to give you maybe some new content within the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, updated graphics, which is very exciting. But on top of that, you very well could see another Tony Hawk Pro Skater game at some point in the foreseeable future. So it's kind of twofold for me. I'm very excited about this, not only because I can't wait to just kind of get my hands on it and kind of play a Tony Hawk Pro Skater with updated graphics and things of that nature, but also being able to play and think to myself, maybe, just maybe, they're working on another Tony Hawk Pro Skater game to continue this franchise moving forward. Now, we don't know this. This is not something that's been confirmed. We have no idea. But I think we all know how business works, guys. As in, from the standpoint of if it sells well, most likely they're going to think about making another, continuation in this series. And the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series was very popular for its time. Maybe, though, it was just a niche, game, niche genre at one point in time, similar to the Guitar Hero Rock Band kind of era of music video games as well. Skateboarding games might have just been kind of similar. There was, it was very niche. There was a time where it was very popular, and then it kind of went down over time. But at the same time, we'll never really know. I mean, maybe it was oversaturation that really hurt these genres, and maybe it's just going to take, just kind of gradually getting back into it for them to start getting bigger once again. Because we all know there's still people who skateboard, guys. There's still people who love playing, video games based around instruments or based around, music. It's definitely still a thing out there. It's just the way that you go about doing it. Don't oversaturate the market. And with Tony Hawk, I hope that this is the first of many other continuations. But what I will say is in moderation, of course, within once this game comes out, if it sells well, gets good reception, hopefully they make another, Tony Hawk continuation, maybe even it's a soft reboot of it. And, make these games every few years or something. But I would love to see a Tony Hawk, Pro Skater game, even on the next-gen consoles, guys. I think it could be something really special as far as from a graphic standpoint, all the different combos and different tricks and things of that nature that you could, of course, try to, attain throughout your course of your career in this series. And honestly, guys, I'm very excited that games like this and Crisis and many others are getting remastered. I think it's really important with helping, to progress some of these franchises forward. But let me know what you guys think about Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 being remastered. What are you guys most excited about? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Tony Hawk Pro Skater Remastered content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.